This episode of Topcast is brought to you by UCF Online. 20-plus years of award-winning online excellence, 75-plus online programs, one of the largest and most innovative universities in the U.S. ucf.edu/online.
From the University of Central Florida's Center for Distributed Learning, I am Tom Cavanagh.
And I am Kelvin Thompson.
And you are listening to Topcast, the teaching online podcast. Back at it again, Kelvin.
Back at it again. It's
Here
true.
in our studio, our palatial recording studio.
The retractable roof and the piped-in sunlight.
That's right.
It's nice.
It is. It's wonderful. We've got a aquarium full of live sharks below us.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't do a good episode, in you go!
There are places in Orlando where we actually could do that.
Oh, I thought there were other higher ed institutions
Maybe.
where that was.
There's a theme park or two that have
Well, that's true.
giant aquaria that we could,
Aquaria? I guess that's a thing. Aquaria, sure.
I guess.
I guess it's plural.
I'm saying it
Latin,
is.
you know?
Aquariums, aquaria.
That's like the snobby people who talk about discussion forums.
And
fora.
fora?
That's
Yes.
right.
I've heard those discussions.
I've been that person.
Yeah. I am a datum guy. I try to use data correctly
that's right.
as a plural.
Yeah, sure.
So while I'm blathering on about fish, I'm hearing the gentle gurgles of a
That's just my
thermos.
stomach.
That might be the shark down there.
And could be. That's right. Yes, sir.
So what is being poured into my mug here?
Well, Tom, we're setting the stage with this first episode of our 4th season. Thank you very much.
Yay!
That's right.
4th season.
That's right. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
We're setting the stage for this first episode of our 4th season for adventure,
Adventure.
daring,
Okay.
mayhem, zest, and danger.
Wow.
You know what you're drinking?
No, but now I'm
You're
a
scared.
little bit scared. Yeah.
Take a sip and see what you think. I hope it did a good job brewing it.
Okay. Yeah.
That's Death Wish coffee.
Death Wish coffee.
It's Death Wish coffee.
Wow, like Charles Bronson.
Exactly. Which am I wrong? I think now there's a remake. I think
There is.
Bruce
I think
Willis.
it's Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Death Wish coffee. So
Death Wish coffee.
So we're drinking vigilante coffee.
I know. Don't you feel like, yeah, there's good stuff here.
Nothing says tough vigilante like Tom and Kelvin. Yeah.
That's so true.
All right, so I think I kind of get the connection.
Yeah, so why don't you take us on? There actually it wasn't just setting the stage for the next season, although it maybe does that. It actually has relevance to today's topic.
Maybe. Really, if it doesn't, does it matter anyway, right?
Oh, it does, Tom. It always matters.
It always matters. Okay,
always
so I would say that if you are a vigilante, you are a wrathful person.
Okay.
You want vengeance. And those are attributes that are not considered the most wholesome,
Okay.
and that you would be suffering, may I even say, from sinful behavior. You would be wrathful.
Oh,
And
I feel like I need a shower now.
that would be one of the 7 deadly or capital sins.
7 deadly sins. Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. It's just, we're going to talk today about what we might call the 6 deadly sins of online teaching. Getting back to our online teaching roots in this first episode of our new season. So 6 deadly sins.
The
Death
6
wish, deadly sins, sure.
Deadly sins of online teaching.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Abandon all hope, ye who enter the Topcast podcast.
You know why these are the deadly sins of online teaching?
Why?
They'll kill your courses if you do them.
Ooh, that's good.
That's it.
Let's hope that we can save some people from
that.
Yeah, the
That's right.
6th level of
Hell.
Dante's hell. Yeah.
That's right. Whatever. Yeah, sure. And I don't know. These are just 6. These are some that we've talked about, and hey, you guys might have other ones, and if you do, let us know. It's all good. So how do you want to proceed? You want me to tell you
Well, maybe
the first one?
Before we jump in, I think
Yeah.
it's important to know that, at least in Christian thought, and I imagine it's the same elsewhere, that the 7 deadly sins are kind of not in isolation.
Well, that's
There's
true. Yeah,
There's
sure.
a countervailing virtue
Yeah.
that is something that you can aspire towards to overcome that particular.
Well, that sounds a whole
deadly
lot
sin.
better than this other stuff. Maybe I should have gotten like angel coffee and we should have drank that instead of the Death Wish coffee.
Death Wish coffee. No,
But I feel a lot tougher now.
It's, if it leads, it bleeds. Or if it bleeds, it leads. Right. So let's go with Death Wish coffee.
Okay.
But I think that keeping in mind the ameliorating virtue as we go through the 6 deadly sins of online teaching will be helpful, because this is a hopeful podcast at its core.
Helpful, but a little bit dangerous.
Helpful and hopeful.
Tell your friends this is a dangerous podcast.
That's right.
It might not be. They might not be able to handle it. Tell them that.
I'll tell them. I will. Just wait till you see my tweets. All right. So
my goodness.
you want to start?
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
So I think this arguably is the foundational deadly sin of online teaching. You ready?
Bum bum bum.
Being absent.
Being absent. Oh my gosh, that is the number one complaint that we hear from students.
Being absent. And to your point, the countervailing virtue of that to that vice is what we might call instructor presence, right? So absence versus presence. So we've heard all these terms, like phoning it in, robo course.
Yep.
Right. That's a thing.
Yep.
So I don't know. What are some tactical ways that come to your mind that students can feel the absence of an instructor?
Feel the absence. It's a risk in some self-paced courses, different kinds of self-paced instructional tutorials, some competency-based or mastery-based.
It's a risk.
Yeah, elements of adaptive if you're not careful with how you deploy it. I think all of those, you need to just keep this in mind.
At the same time, though, right, even in, dare I say, traditional online courses at this point, if one is not sensitive to how one develops content materials and how one posts and interacts with students, you can do that in a way that just really feels detached, right? And so the presence, our colleague, now retired, Dr. Bill Phillips, talked about instructor persona and having that, interjecting that into the materials and into your discussion postings and announcements and individual student messages and so forth. Doing that on a regular basis, that's a thing. That's a positive cultivation thing.
Okay, so that's deadly sin number 1.
Deadly sin number 1.
All right, and the virtue associated with it.
That's
which would
right.
Be, which would
Absence
be
versus presence, right?
So number 2.
Number 2.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. I think follows rather well from the first one. So it's just a degree removed. Aloofness. So there's absence, but then there's aloofness. Aloofness versus engagement, we might say.
Okay, I can see that as being qualitatively different from presence and absence.
That's right. That's right. Because it's not just that you're not there, but there's a tone. I'm told sometimes I have tone.
Okay.
It's like, don't have tone.
Nonverbal communication cues.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we really see this as the interactions with the whole class and with individual students, whether that's synchronous communication or asynchronous communication, discussion boards or voice thread or individual messages or what have you, podcasts, whatever your shtick is. You can cultivate a positive tone or a more of an aloof, detached tone. Can I tell you this story? This is horrible. I get fired today for this probably. I think, but back in the day when we were using stone knives and bear skins to teach online, I was working here, but I was in grad school also here, and I accidentally logged in with like the full God's eye instructor view.
Yeah.
Of the
Still happens to people today.
Yeah, that's right.
They report them to me.
That's right. I would have owned it. Right? If there was anybody to tell, if there was a protocol for doing that, I felt really bad because here's what I saw. I logged in, and we're using another learning management system at the time, an older one. And I went into the discussion board, and I suddenly realized that I wasn't logged in as me because I saw like the million unread discussion postings from the instructor's view, and I suddenly had a whole different perspective on that instructor. And I was like, oh, I don't want to know this. I don't want to know that you haven't read a single thing that anybody's written all semester. So that's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, well, judge not.
I know.
Ye be judged.
That's right.
Because there are different ways of managing a course.
That's right.
Sometimes the discussion boards are set up to be just a discussion between students, not to be a mediated thing by faculty.
Yeah.
But I get your point.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And that is a good point, right? That we should be aware of our unintentional aloofness and try to cultivate a perception, but you never perfectly control how you're perceived by somebody else. But there are strategies for cultivating student engagement by faculty. Shout out here to the Teaching Online Pedagogical Repository, topr, topr.online.ucf.edu. You can find all kinds of stuff there for if you're afraid of aloofness, you can pursue the virtue of engagement.
Pursue that virtue. All right. That's 2 down.
Mm-hmm. Here's the halfway point.
Halfway point, deadly sin number 3.
This one might be controversial.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't,
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Being teaching focused.
As opposed to
being learning focused.
Learning focused. That's right.
It's not really about you. It's not really about me.
Yeah. There are some faculty that might take exception to the way we've characterized this.
That's right.
Yeah. But I take your point, and I don't disagree. I think that I was teaching at a community college a number of years ago, and their big thing was being a learning-focused institution.
Sure.
And there was all this training, and I went through these classes on flipping the script a little bit from being a teaching-focused institution to being a learning. It was all about the students learning. And I think if you come at it that way, it makes you a better teacher.
Yeah.
It's 2 sides of a coin.
Yeah, I think that's right. But conversely, if all you do is if you can make a fetish out of the focusing on teaching, and it doesn't necessarily get you to the learning.
Yeah.
You hope it does.
Yeah. Sage on a stage or whatever kind of tropes we can trot out.
That's right. All the lecture stuff. Bar and Tags, seminal 1995 article that kind of does this nice dichotomy between, I forget how they frame it. It's either sage and stage, or it's lecture and non-lecture, or it might be teaching and learning. So, I don't know, but it's a good read if you haven't read it in a while. Mm-hmm. Number 4.
Number 4. Dun dun dun.
And these get a little bit more nuanced as we go down or up or whichever way we're going. Rote learning centered. That's ROTE. Mm-hmm. Rote learning oriented.
And that's the sin.
Yes. Versus meaningful learning oriented.
Okay.
Right? We talked before about lower order thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. So maybe another alternative title is, HOTS versus NOTS.
It's a good thing I was drinking during
I was
that.
I was waiting for a spit take.
HOTS versus NOTS.
Yeah.
Higher order thinking skills.
Yeah, it's an egregious pun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, recall kind of stuff, that lower level of Bloom's taxonomy, just being, and I don't think anybody sets out for that, but we sometimes stumble into it. We don't think about it, right? And I think a lot of it's, if we just sort of accept the functionality of the learning management system without really critically thinking about how to design for higher order thinking and so forth, we can stumble into a bunch of multiple choice tests that are just recall oriented, for instance.
Yeah, I think that's true. And as you know, you can write a multiple choice test that gets to synthesis.
Yeah,
and
it's just hard.
It is.
It's just hard.
It is hard. It takes a lot of work, but it can be done. And this also puts me in mind a little bit of an initiative that our Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning was working on. I want to say it was sometime last year, this notion of transparent teaching.
Yeah.
About being really honest with students about why they're learning the thing that they're learning and how it's applicable in different contexts, whether it's a professional environment or work or job or whatever. But here's why I'm teaching you this thing.
Yeah.
So that they don't just think, oh, it's some pointless, make work that this teacher's putting me through this gauntlet of nonsense.
I think it's an excellent point because otherwise you're in this kind of this box checking thing, right? The faculty members kind of box checking and the students are kind of, it is kind of mindless.
Yeah.
Box checking.
Yeah.
Number 5?
Number 5.
Another controversial one maybe, and I don't know.
Dun, dun, dun.
Just being a grader. Just being a grader versus maybe what we might call adopting kind of a reviewer mindset, right? You're just kind of, speaking of box checking, you're just kind of like going through and like, okay, B, C, A, F, 0, as opposed to, I see what you were going for there, but it didn't quite land.
I wonder if maybe even another term besides reviewer, and I know this term is used elsewhere, so it's probably not the right term. It has different context, but almost like a coach.
Yeah, I like that. I see what you're doing there. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, I've been guilty of this. So I teach writing.
Yeah.
And when I'm teaching online, I use track changes a lot.
Sure.
And it's easy for me to go into a student's paper and make the change with track changes.
Yes.
And the intention I have is to say, look what I've done.
Like this.
So that you can learn and understand what I'm looking for or what I think the professional workplace is looking for so that you can do it differently next time. But I worry, it's maybe not as big a concern here because I've taught grad courses at UCF pretty exclusively, and they kind of get it, mostly the grad students. But even so, I worry that they just go, okay, and just, don't really critically think about that comment. And if maybe I would put in a little more effort, it would be, this area is not quite working. Why do you think that? Force them to work a little harder at it so that they come up with the answer as opposed to me just saying, change this to this.
Yeah, I like how you're framing that, right? And I do think it has a lot to do with the nature of the feedback, right? I do think in terms of robust and appropriate, but I like where you're going. It's the raising the issue, not solving the problem necessarily.
Yes, and in fact, our writing center, if you go in and want help with your English composition paper, they're not going to edit it for you. They're not going to write on it. What they're going to do is point out themes and give you tips and send you back to do your own work on it. And I think that's the right approach. It's harder, and it takes more work on a faculty member or the writing tutor's part. But I think it has much greater long-term benefits for the students.
And it's not just writing as a subject area, but this dynamic, honestly, probably could be somewhat influenced by subject area. Some subject areas it may manifest in certain ways, but I like to think there's a broadly applicable principle here that if you're coming from a place of what's wrong with this or fix this versus hey Tom, how could this be better? Do you think?
Yeah. Well, maybe in like a quantitative context, if you think about math, it's why the faculty and teachers, even in the K-12 environment, want you to show your work.
Yes.
So that they can find out where you messed up. And point you back there. And maybe the analog, I don't teach math, but one of the analog would be, instead of changing the numbers on step 3, it would be like, okay, you got it wrong right here in step 3. What do you think you did wrong?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's good. But like so many things with teaching and learning, scale can be an issue with this kind of thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, because it's work.
It's a lot more efficient just to A, 0, 1,
let
2, 3.
Let the LMS grade it automatically.
Something. That's right.
All right. So we've come to our very last deadly sin.
There's probably more. There's probably more.
Just between you and me, there's probably another couple of volumes. Yeah.
I can tell you lots of stuff I've done wrong that have made horrible experiences for students.
Well, maybe we'll do a part 2. With
that's right.
Even more sins.
Even more sins.
It'll be Tom and Kelvin's confessional.
Well, it is a little sweatboxy in here. I mean, is it just me or is it hot in here? I don't know exactly what to call this one, but I'm thinking of it as individualist or isolationist versus interventionist. I know it sounds kind of foreign policy related, but individualist versus interventionist. And I think this is really, we could frame this as being related to student success at the course level. Do individual students sink or swim on their own, or is it the role of the instructor to throw the student a life preserver, to step in and offer help?
Yeah.
And I think it varies. And if I would assert that you're not helping your students, and maybe you are killing your course if you are just adopting hey, you're on your own in here. I'm not helping you. You haven't logged in 3 weeks, but I'm not going to say anything to you.
I think that maybe this one is also somewhat related to number 3, which is learning focus versus teaching focus.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Because it's about the ultimate success of the student, and what can you do to be an agent for that?
And this too, I imagine, is controversial. I have plenty of folks I know, just like I'm sure you do too, faculty colleagues, who I can imagine taking issue with this framing because they want to enact a level of rigor and a level of students stepping up and not being like helicopter faculty or bailing students out and so forth. But there is a balance there in my mind. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
And scale is an issue, like so many things.
You could probably say that about every single one of these.
Everything. Scale is always an issue. Yeah. But those are the 6.
6 deadly sins.
They'll kill your courses.
What about you, dear listener? 1, what are you guilty of?
Oh.
But 2, maybe you've got some others to suggest. And we've got a really cool Topcast community that you can share them with. And maybe even more so, share your strategies for counterbalancing them, to counteracting them.
How could they do that?
They would go to our website at topcast.ucf. No, I got it. I always get it wrong. Topcast.online.ucf.edu.
Topcast.online.ucf.edu. That is correct.
Yeah, and you'll know that these are unedited episodes because of my fumbling.
That's all good.
What you hear is what you get, folks.
That's it. That's it.
So go to the community and share your ideas about what would be a sin and what would not be a sin. And who knows, maybe we'll structure this into some sort of a conference proposal.
Ooh, that'd be kind of a crowdsourced kind of, would that be kind of cool,
Yeah,
right? Panel, something?
It would be cool.
Hey, if you want to participate, you just go right in there and you drop a comment. Or, hey, if you want to be real creative, you can take your device and voice record a comment about this and email it to us at topcast@ucf.edu.
Yes, and we take coffee donations, which guarantees a shout out.
That's true. That's so true.
In addition to kind of going to the community, you can always just reach out to us through our email at topcast@ucf.edu. And just a reminder, this is the beginning of season 4 of Topcast. So invite a friend to listen.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
They might not be able to handle it.
That's right. But maybe you can hold their hand through the first episode.
Yeah, we got some plans for season 4. We got some stuff we've talked about. Some of it's kind of dangerous, sharp edges.
That's right.
But if you've got thoughts that you'd love to hear us talk about a particular topic, then shoot us a note. Let us know.
To make an Orlando-based reference, where we are, keep your hands and feet inside Topcast at all times because the ride's about to get bumpy. Fasten your seatbelt.
Buckle up.
All right, we think we've stretched that one.
All
as
right,
far
that's
as it's
true.
gonna go. So maybe you want me to take a shot at the bottom line here?
Sure, yeah.
So online courses, as we know, can be wonderfully engaging and very human learning experiences, but they can also be mind-numbingly dead environments.
That's true.
Where faculty and students are just kind of going through the motions, like our Death Wish coffee, almost like the undead zombies wandering the landscape. So the faculty member that's teaching the course is probably the key differentiator between these two possible outcomes. Will they choose virtue or will they choose vice?
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I'm always stunned, right, still by the folks who, when we talk about online teaching, folks really worry about the role of the faculty member. But, it's job security, because I do think it does come all the way back to the instructor of the course. They can make or break an online course. So that's job security, Tom.
Absolutely. So maybe that's a good place to wrap it up. For Topcast, I'm Tom.
I'm Kelvin.
See ya.